Bandwidth for Changelog is provided by Fastly. Learn more at fastly.com. We move fast and fix things here at Changelog because of Rollbar. Check them out at rollbar.com. And we're hosted on Linode servers. Head to linode.com/changelog. This episode is brought to you by Rollbar. Move fast and fix things. Resolve errors in minutes and deploy with confidence. Head to rollbar.com/changelog. Request a demo. Get started today. It's loved by developers, trusted by enterprises, and most of all, we use it here at Changelog. Move fast and fix things with Rollbar. Once again, rollbar.com/changelog. Welcome to JS Party, a weekly celebration of JavaScript and the web. Tune in live on Thursdays at 1 p.m. U.S. Eastern at changelog.com/live. Join the community and Slack with us in real time during the shows at the changelog.com/community. Follow us on Twitter. We're at JSPartyFM. And now on to the show.
All right, well, welcome to JS Party, where every week it's a party in JavaScript. I'm Faraz. I'm going to be hosting this week, first week, and I'm here with three awesome panelists. The first is Suze Hinton. Suze, you want to say hi?
Hello.
Nice. And the second panelist is Nick Nisi.
Hello.
Cool. And then last but certainly not least is Alex Sexton.
Hi, everybody. I'm back.
Cool. So we're going to be talking today about some really fun stuff. I'm super excited about our topic for this week. We're going through a bunch of things from old DOM APIs to our favorite HTML tags, weird websites, nostalgia, a bunch of old stuff, web security, and surprising and weird websites.
I'm so pumped for this episode.
Nice. So let's just get right into it. The first topic is favorite HTML tags. So maybe Suze, you want to go first and just tell us what HTML tag you selected as your favorite.
Yeah, so we were talking about weird tags that aren't always necessarily used to this day. And so I went a bit nostalgic, and my favorite sort of weird old HTML tag is the map tag, where you make image maps, which are like super fun. So I think most of you were doing HTML on this panel back when image maps were really popular, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I never actually used one myself.
Oh, really?
No, yeah. Never used it.
Image maps were the best for adding, what are they called? Secret parts of websites. You click on like the eyeball of someone's eye, and then you get to go to some link.
Yes, it's so true. And it was like an Easter egg way of doing things, but it also meant that instead of having to have all of these separate pieces of an image and tile them all together in some kind of table layout, in order to create these different hotspots you could click on, you could essentially apply a map HTML tag to a matching like image tag, and you could set up these regions, I guess, and it was kind of similar to SVG, where you could either draw like a rectangle or you could draw polygons, and then each little hotspot would end up being a href just to go somewhere else, which was really, really awesome. So you could have a map with lots of different cute little buildings and landmarks, and that could be the navigation for your website. And so the reason why I really liked it was because looking back over it, it was like kind of weird, but it did solve a pretty like awkward problem that we had, where we couldn't sort of lay things out as nicely like what we have with grid layout these days. And it just forced people to be really creative. Like the navigations that people made with it especially was like really, really entertaining. And there were all these really cool online tools that allowed you to generate these image maps. So you could actually draw the polygons instead of having to hand code them. And so there was this really cool culture of being able to push the limits of this HTML tag for sure.
Suze, do you know, was this tag created before there were tables? Because I'm thinking like maybe you could simulate this with the table. You could have like an image in every cell, and then just make like slice up the image basically, and then put each piece into a cell in a table, and then you could linkify a few of them.
That's really funny that you say that. I was thinking the same thing for us, and I went to check the historic records of the Space Jam website to see if that's what they were using, if they were using the map. But they are not. They are using a table and putting each image into cells.
Oh,
Interesting. Wow. Yeah, I should have researched that, but I'm not actually sure when it did come about. And I remember those days of creating like an entire layout and then using like slicing apps in Photoshop and things like that. But I feel like instead of image maps now, we still have table layouts a lot of the time in emails. And so each little region is like a clickable cell, I guess. So I guess we've kind of seen that approach live on in a lot of HTML emails, even if they're not using map anymore.
The map was first introduced in the HTML 4.01 specification. So I think tables predate map by a good chunk.
Interesting.
Well, I guess you can do other shapes in map too besides the square.
Right.
So that's a unique feature.
It's certainly a superset of the like linkability possibilities, but I think there are other reasons to do table layouts because you actually wanted like certain cells to shift width based on the content and things like that. So it wasn't always just a single image.
That's true. Yeah.
But still very good deep cut.
Cool. So Alex, you want to share your tag? Unless there's anything else we have to add about map.
No, we're good.
Oh yeah, actually, I'm curious. Actually, real quick. Actually, does map still work today? Is part of the like spec or is deprecated?
Oh, I should have looked that up.
I believe it's still it's still in the living standard.
I guess is it recommended to use it still, or is it discouraged?
Well, it was only a recommendation in 4.01 and 5, and now it's just part of living standard. So I don't see anywhere where it says that it's discouraged or anything like that. I think it's just shouldn't be used for the things we used to use it for. It's actually great for linking parts of an image, but it's bad for page layout.
Yeah, I think that we have much better tools these days for doing this. And I think that websites almost have like moved on to the point where we sort of want a nice structural hierarchy rather than an Easter egg you have to hunt to find stuff.
Yeah, interestingly, you can't have the map tag without, I think, the area tag, right? So you kind of get 2-for-1 weird tags with this deep cut. So the area tag is just like how you define the coordinates of a shape that you want to link inside of a map. So if you ever wanted to use the area tag, there you go. Of course, all the examples, even in the living spec, are still fully capitalized examples of like all the text that's like map, area, href.
I love it. That's awesome.
Which is good. I'm happy about that.
Cool. Alex, tell us about your favorite tag.
Yeah, I'm going to be a jerk and mention a few, mostly because they're not that interesting to talk about deeply. My favorite tag, I think, has always been a DL tag. But one of the reasons I like it is because the thing that stands for, they changed it between HTML4 and 5. So it used to be a definition list, and a definition list contained. So it's a DL element, and it can contain DTs and DDs, which are like definition titles and definition somethings. The cool thing about it was kind of like an unordered list or like a UL tag, but you could have like unlimited definitions of single titles. It was just it's one of the worst like elements for hierarchy, because it's just you give the DT and then everything after it is going to be any DD after it. Like you could have 10, you could have 0 is going to like apply to this sibling element rather than being inside of the DT, which I always thought was weird. And then it mostly didn't change what you use it for, but they thought it was a better like definition of the DL to call it a description list instead of a definition list, because that like opens up wider possibilities. It doesn't have to be like this is a word and these are the 5 meanings. But you can imagine like a dictionary has the word, so it has a DL and the word is the DT, and then all the possible definitions would be DD elements. And that was kind of cool. But whatever. Yeah, the next one is the WBR element, which is the word break opportunity element, and it's just gives the renderer the ability. It says if you have to break up this sentence, here's a really good spot to do it. And I think it's underused. A lot of people are trying to use like white space, no wrap, or whatever. Hyphen incantation you need to make that work in CSS. But a lot of times if you just like have a good rule of where to inject WBR elements, they render as like empty bytes, and they don't show up on the page, but they tell the renderer where to go. And the last one is just a shout out to iframe, because it's like there's nothing you can't do with an iframe. And so if I had to actually pick my favorite HTML element to be an iframe, it's just too large of a topic to even broach.
That's awesome.
Cool. Nick.
All right. So mine is not going to be a popular one, but it got me through so many really boring classes in high school. So I'm going to give a shout out to the applet tag. And that'll probably seal my fate of never being on this podcast again. But
turn off his mic.
Playing old Java and Flash games was a big part of my high school class experience, I guess. So I really liked it. I'm really glad that it's dead, and please don't ever try and use it. I don't think you can anymore, but there was a lot of fun games that you could play.
Quick question. Were memory, random access memory by arbitrary attackers a big part of your high school experience as well?
Probably, but I was oblivious.
Being part of botnets was a big part of my high school experience.
Yeah, I'm wondering, like, what's the difference between applet and object and embed? Because I think all those are like similar, right? They all let you embed like a Flash or Java thing.
Yeah, there were different rules around the access that things initially had. I think initially for the Java stuff, you'd have to have the little coffee logo, the Java logo that came up and spun. But I think like applets had more like first party access to things, which was scary. But I think also it's very specific to Java. And so embed and object became the IE and standards version of applet for arbitrary third-party things rather than just Java.
Also, my first big experience with trying to create, I guess, something more than a web page was with applet. In high school, my school, they blocked AOL Instant Messenger for a few days. And in that time, I was reading and learning Java, reading a book on Java, and there was a chat demo in there, and I was trying to make that work as an applet. I never really got it to work because I didn't know anything about what I was doing, but it was fun to play with that.
That's great. I remember once I got a PC Mag, and there was like a Java applet in it with the source code. And, this was before I had the internet. And so I sat there and painstakingly typed the entire application into a notepad. And then I didn't actually realize that you actually needed the runtime and all of this other stuff. And I didn't have the internet to get it. So I spent hours typing this thing in. I wanted to put it between applet, in an applet tag. And then I never actually got to do it, which was really sad.
Oh, that's really sad.
It ran in your imagination, the best JVM.
Yeah, it was going to be really cool. It was one of these whiteboard apps where you could like draw pictures and stuff. And I was like, oh, I'm going to put this on my website. It's going to be awesome. And yeah.
What did you end up putting on your website instead?
I found my very first website recently on a floppy disk, and it did actually use frames, Alex. So you'll be really happy with that.
Right. That is not what I said. I said iframes. It's very different.
Oh, that's a good point. Okay, well, it used FrameSet, which is awesome. And it was me reviewing Pokemon games and talking about how you can enable glitches and stuff in the game.
Oh, wow. That's like Smash Brothers ahead of its time. Game glitch, like in order to like get hacks and go further in the game, right?
Yeah, so there was like a Pokemon called Missing Number, and you could also
Missing
swim.
No, yes.
Yeah, Missing No, and you could swim around the SS Anne boat and things like that. So yeah, they were really cool hacks.
Man, that's such a blast from the past. Wow.
My first website was about motorcycles, I guess like dirt bikes. and I've never ridden a dirt bike before. It's just the guy who taught me how to build websites had a dirt bike website, so I was like, I guess I'll build one of those too.
My first one was a Mr. T fan page.
I think that wins.
Mine was just like a personal site that I put some home movies that I made on.
I feel like that's very for us.
And then your second website ever is the one that we're going to talk about for the second segment.
Yeah. First, I gotta say my favorite HTML tag. My favorite HTML tag is plain text. I'm actually curious, have any of you heard of it before this?
No, I hadn't heard of it before you mentioned it.
Yeah, it's a really weird one. And it's like, it goes back to the really early days of I think like maybe the original Netscape. My impetus for, first let me say what it does. So if you put a plain text tag in a page, first of all, there's no closing tag. You can't close it, so it just opens, and then everything that follows the plain text tag, it just renders as plain text, and you can't stop it. So it just starts making everything after it plain text, and you can't undo it or close it.
I feel like this is the ultimate injected script hack.
Yeah, it's useful actually it was useful to me at one point in time and that's why I went looking for something like it, because when I was doing my company like in 2013, I had this idea to make a peer-to-peer content delivery network. Not too unlike what WebTorrent does today, but to do it as like a CDN that people would use to host their static content using WebRTC. And there was no service worker back then, so you couldn't stop resources from loading normally over HTTP and then try to load them over WebRTC without having the user like go and change the way they make their website. So like what I wanted to do was make it so that they could just add my script to their website, and then like at the top of their website in the head tag, and then I could prevent all the resources later in the page from loading. It wasn't possible to like wait till the ready event or to try to like select the elements and rewrite to change the source, remove the source attribute from the images or from the videos. It wasn't fast enough. Like the browser was actually doing those HTTP requests really quickly. Because I think it has this like
does look
parser.
ahead, yeah.
Look ahead, yeah. This speculative parser, yeah. It like finds anything that looks like an HTTP link and it just fires off a request or starts to open up the connection to the server and all that. So anyway, even if you stopped it, it was like too late. It was already wasting resources. So then I was like, okay, and there was no service worker, so it wasn't possible to like do this properly and intercept the requests and handle them differently. So like what we resorted to was the worst hack ever. We just would document.write the plain text tag into the top of the page, which would literally just break, like would just show the whole website as HTML. But then we would apply a style attribute to the plain text tag, which was display none. So it wouldn't show the HTML. It was like hidden, but it was there in the page. And then we did a regular expression over that, what is now a text node in the DOM. The whole source of the site is like a text node. We'd regex it, change all the source equals to like something else, like data dash source equals, and then inject it back into the page.
Amazing.
And that worked in every browser?
That worked in every browser, yes. In Firefox, it gave you a warning. It would warn you about how you're slowing down the page load by
document write,
preventing preventing the speculative parser from working. So it knew that like plain text did that and had a special warning for like not doing that. So it actually added like half a second of load time up front. So it wasn't really a good idea, but it was the only thing that worked.
Just for reference, the HTML plaintext element has been deprecated since HTML2, which is impressive. It was obsoleted in the spec in HTML5, so it's listed as deprecated, but I think it does not even mentioned anymore. So yeah, you shouldn't use it. It was never implemented in all browsers, but it sounds like all the big ones have it if you were using it to your advantage.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I just remember we tested the big four and it worked. I don't know if maybe Edge doesn't have it because that wasn't even out then. I don't know.
In general, you probably want the pre-element. The interesting thing about it is you kind of said it already, is like you don't need the closing tag, And that's because you can't have the closing tag, because once you're in plain text, the closing tag would be plain text. Like, it can't be parsed anymore. Like, it's impossible to have a closing tag. It's not that it wanted, like, it's not that that's like good. It's just that it must be that way.
I love it.
Yeah, I'm thinking like the thinking of this tag must have been to, if you're trying to serve like HTML source that was readable by the user, then you could start that with a plain text tag or something. Then the browser wouldn't interpret it as HTML. But I mean, why didn't they just use MIME types or like a content type header or something? I guess that maybe that wasn't around. I don't know.
Yeah, those things were around, I think, for the most part. But if you think about a lot of these early things, it's like the web wasn't important yet whenever this stuff was made. And so it's just like, imagine working at your company right now and being like, what if we had like a way for people to show HTML? And someone's like, okay, we could just add this tag. And then it's like, no big deal. And then like later, the world relies on your technology. And it's like, hey, no one thought this out. And I was like, yeah, no one thought this out. I don't know. It's just so old that like they didn't have to consider how ridiculous it was, I think. It's just like it kind of worked.
This episode is brought to you by the O'Reilly Fluent Conference. Make your plans now to attend Fluent in San Jose, California, June 11th through June 14th to learn the latest JavaScript tools and methods. Be part of what past attendees call, quote, a great center for modern web development and disruption, and, quote, the best place to see the current state of the web. Use the discount code JSParty to save 20% on most passes. Learn how to build a better web with better user experiences at O'Reilly Fluent Conference. Head to fluentconf.com to learn more and register.
We're going to go right into our second topic, which is the annoying site. This actually started out as sort of an experiment where I was trying to figure out what web APIs could be abused and like which were sort of designed in a way that maybe were open to just like unintended or unexpected uses. And so I was like looking through all of the different web APIs I could find on Mozilla, on the MDN site, and just thinking like, okay, so I see. So there's a permission prompt on this one, or there's a restriction in this way. But like, what if we did this differently? What could we do? And what kind of site could we put together? And then just like went through each one and just thought of like, how could this feature be used to make the most annoying possible site? And I just put them all into one to one site, and that's what you can visit at theannoyingsite.com. But if you visit that, fair warning, like do it in an alternative browser or in an incognito window. Because it is actually, it'll do some things. It's not outright malicious, but it'll certainly, it can log you out of some sites that you're logged into, like your Google account. You'll just get logged out of it. And
for us, I think we're starting like at this point where we know what it is. And so it's like the first thing you want to do is warn people. But what happens when you go to the website?
So you see a sort of innocent picture of a cat. And then it says, to get started, click the cat. Actually, it suggests that you hold down the space bar because that actually causes a more disastrous outcome. Basically, as soon as you do either of those things, you click on the cat or you press space, it will pop up one or more pop-up windows that can actually move around your screen. And they move around and bounce off the edges of the screen, making it really hard to close the windows with your mouse to hit the X button, because the Windows physically moving around and bouncing around your screen. And then it tries to prevent you from getting out of that, even with the keyboard shortcuts. So if you hit Command W to close the window, that gets intercepted with a pop-up that can actually block that shortcut from working, and it does like a bunch more things. Like it vibrates your device if you're on a mobile device. It puts text on your clipboard. It shows the print dialog. It tries to ask for your camera. It turns on your full. It does full screen mode. It asks you if you're sure if you want to leave the website if you're trying to leave. It blocks the back button from working. It fills your history with embarrassing searches. It navigates the tab that actually linked to this site, so that it takes over more of your tabs. and on and on. So, and I'm actually thinking of more things to add to it, because there's actually a few more things I just learned about, like the speech synthesis API. Actually, apparently that one doesn't even is unmutable. If you try to mute a tab, like you can still make sound from the tab if you use the speech synthesis API. So I got to add that one to it for sure. But it's just like, it's actually just a crazy number of things you can do.
Why did you make this? You were trying to annoy someone?
I just thought it was interesting that you could move windows around. Yeah, there's also kind of a story. Like I was trying to get revenge on a spammer. Basically, I was trying to waste their time because they wasted my time. So I wanted to send them a link that could, make them force quit their browser and lose whatever work they had unsaved. That was the idea. And so I actually I responded to the spammer, and I assume it worked.
Some Nigerian prince just got downgraded to Duke. So let's jump into, I guess, like some of the repercussions of such a large array of abuse, like all chained together. So I think the interesting thing is that like any one of these APIs slightly abused is like within the realm of like, that maybe is a decent trade-off by the browser, because you want people to use this, or you want it to be accessible without having to like click on a bunch of permissions, or you want it to be on by default so people actually use it, things like that. But then also like, if you string a bunch of these things together or use them in the worst possible imagined way, which for us you seem to be exceptionally gifted at coming up with, the outcome is like, to the extent of maybe not like a violation of privacy or anything like that, but certainly like can destroy someone's entire browsing session, which is like on the edge of security and just like extreme dark UI.
Yeah, I was going to ask for us, were you afraid to push this live, or how did you feel when you sent this URL back to the spammer?
The part of me was like worried that doing this would end up causing these APIs to get restricted in some way. I mean, that was my main concern. Like, I don't want the web to get crippled. And I mean, you can kind of already see like some of this stuff happening. I mean, there's been like times in the past where the browsers have had to dial back some of the power of these different APIs. So like new APIs require HTTPS a lot of the time, or they're not available. There was also an issue where WebRTC, which is used to do peer-to-peer connections, was able to gather your local IP address, which is useful for connecting to people who are on the same Wi-Fi network as you in a really efficient way, because then you can just connect directly to their local IP. But there were literally ads that were creating WebRTC connections to nowhere, and just gathering your local IP address, which is additional data they could use to track you, because that might not change. That IP address might stay the same even if you clear your cookies. So that was basically like really bad, and so they like took that feature away, which is, I mean, just makes like the connections worse, right? But then the trade-off was, if you give the website permission to use your camera and your microphone, then that local IP address then comes back, so you're allowed to use that again. So, because the idea is like, if you're giving your camera permission and your microphone, that's like already more intimate than your local IP. So go ahead and let the local IP go through. But that hurts use cases like WebTorrent or any other WebRTC use case that doesn't use the microphone or the camera, because then now you have like worse route. And then there's like, I'm trying to think, there's like a few more cases like this
on the IP address, just because that's interesting. Like the other interesting thing about that and maybe a bunch of these are, you can't really pop up to normal users, this site would like to know your local IP address, right? That doesn't mean anything. You can say this site wants to access your camera or your location, and that means things, but this site wants to know your local IP address is just meaningless. And so how does a browser solve for that? Like, they can't necessarily do that easily. The whole thing reminds me a lot of Evercookie. I don't know if you remember that. This is a similar type of project where like cookies can be cleared, and browsers are doing a better job of like allowing people to block third-party cookies and things like that. And there's a guy named Sammy Kamkar, who's kind of a security researcher. He got famous for the Sammy is my hero MySpace vulnerability way back in the day.
Yeah.
But MySpace famously offered him a job after he hacked MySpace or whatever, and it was just like some script injections that automatically made people friend him and write Sammy is my hero on their MySpace wall or whatever. I don't think it was called a wall. When they offered him a job, they flew him out to LA, and then when he got to LA, they arrested him under like the not espionage, like the Patriot Act, and then he couldn't use a computer. But the day he came back, he released Evercookie, which used Flash cookies, and then it used Java applets, and then it used local storage, and then session storage. It used every possible way. It used the window history API. It used just about every last little tiny thing that you could possibly use to store data. It even used like old exploits in Java that you could run in order to accidentally leak memory into other parts of the system. So the only way whenever Evercookie came out to not have the data permanently stored was to delete your browser and reinstall it. And even then, unless, like I think Safari, you could be in private mode and just restart it. The idea was not that people would use this, though they did. Advertisers immediately started implementing Evercookie as part of ads that they do. But the browsers now had like a clear list of ways, like, here's this one thing that we need to beat because it does everything. And if we beat this, it's unlikely that someone could come up with this much stuff. So I actually think the Annoying Site is a really good use case for browsers in this same way, because Evercookie does not work in any browser anymore. And it became a really useful tool to know exactly what to try to prevent. So I think you did a good thing here.
Thanks. Yeah, I've actually had this type of thing happen to sites I made before too. Like I made one that fills up your hard drive using local storage. It was filldisk.com. And that doesn't work anymore because browsers also used it in their like testing. Yeah, it's actually good, I think, to push this stuff to its limits. And I mean, because I think there are some reasonable things that people can improve. I was hoping maybe we could quickly go through just some of the APIs and have y'all guess whether they require user permission or not.
Yeah, there's like 3 levels, right? It's you can do it automatically, you can do it after user interaction, and then you need explicit permission. Maybe those are the 3.
Yes, those are the 3. Yeah. So user interaction means like any kind of event that is explicitly the user is interacting with the site. So that doesn't include things like scroll. Or mouse move, because those are going to happen like way too easily. Just things like clicks, taps, or key presses. So that's considered user initiated gesture.
Only because you mentioned it, and it was super interesting when I saw you give a talk about this. You mentioned mouse move just now. I did not know that if you move a browser window under someone's mouse, so technically like there is a differential in the browser window and the mouse, that mouse move is fired the same. Like the mouse is not moving, the browser is moving. And you said that the mouse move fires the same as if you were moving the mouse over it. And I just thought that was interesting enough to tell everyone.
It's quite useful to know that you can make a browser window follow the user's mouse around by using that trick. Anyway, so let's go through this. So it's I'm going to be pretty quick because I have a like decently long list here. So open a pop-up window.
That one's definitely user interaction. That's the first user interaction. That's like the poster child of why like pop-up blockers work on this whole thing of like an event must be explicitly tied, right?
Yep, that's right. Okay, cool. Okay, what about if you want to vibrate the device? Actually make the phone vibrate.
I don't want to be the only one answering, but that one's free.
Yeah, I feel like you need no permission for that.
Yep, that's correct. Yeah. So actually ads used to vibrate people's devices. I think they now restrict it to the top level domain, but yeah, it's crazy. Okay, next one. Say you want to focus a window. So this is going to be like a pop-up window that you've popped up in the past, and you want to focus it, bring it to the front.
Yeah, as long as you control it, there's no permission needed.
Actually, you need to do that in a click handler, in my experience.
If you popped up the window in a click handler, then even to like refocus the old one, you need another click.
Oh, I haven't tried that, but to refocus the pop-up window once the main window's been refocused, that need to go back to the pop-up and bring that to the front. That would require user interaction.
Interesting. I think I've seen that with PayPal actually. So there are times when the modal didn't work and it was a pop-up instead. And then if you just refocus back, it would end up having to make you click to go back to it. And I remember that kind of loop. So it reminds me of that.
Okay, what about copying text to the user's clipboard?
Ooh.
Gesture.
Yeah, I think that needs an action, right?
Yeah,
That's still
right.
abused a lot though, because you know when you copy a paragraph from like a news website and then when you paste it, they've like inserted an extra bit into your clipboard. I hate that so much.
Did Flash have different restrictions with that? Like, could you do it without any kind of gesture?
I believe that also required a gesture. Okay, what about reading text off of the clipboard? So the user copied some text from another program on their computer, and then they go to the site. Can the site can the site read the text?
I think that's never, right?
Not anymore, actually. So there's a new API that lets you read it, but it requires explicit permission, of course, because you could have copied like a password or something from another app.
What's the API?
It's like navigator.clipboard something or other. I don't remember. Okay, what about showing the print dialog? Like, do you want to print this web page?
That one is free.
How do you know all these, Alex?
I'm just intuiting.
He's just very confident.
Well, if you think about like how print dialogues work, a lot of times you click on some link on a bank website and it brings you to a page, and then like 4 seconds later a print dialogue pops up, right? So that just implies to me that there was no user interaction. But it stops everything, right?
Yeah. So it's like freezes the event loop while the dialogue is open. And the other thing that's cool is cool depending on your definition of cool, but it actually prevents you from closing pop-up windows, because what you can do is Command W is actually blocked. You can't intercept that and prevent that from closing the window. But you can open up a print dialog when the user presses Command, and then that will actually prevent the W from closing the window.
But then all your windows stop moving around the page, right?
Yeah, that's the downside. Yeah. Okay. What about turning on the user's flash?
The flashlight.
No idea.
I don't know this one. Yeah. I assume user interaction, right? I hope.
Oh wow, no, user interaction would be. I think that would not be enough. I don't know. So it's actually, so first you have to get camera permission, and then once you have a camera object, you can turn on the flash. It's more for like a camera app to be able to expose UI to the user to let them select the like camera settings. Like, do they want to turn the flash on or change the zoom levels and stuff like that. Okay, what about triggering a file download?
No permission required.
It takes one interaction, but then after that, it's free.
I don't think you need anything.
Yeah, Suze's right. Yeah, you get one free file download, because you've seen those sites that go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then the file downloads. It's the same thing that you said. It's similar to print, basically. A new page can just do it, but only once. And then further file downloads need additional user interactions.
So I got it exactly backwards.
Yeah. Okay, and then here we got a lot more, but I don't know if we have time, so I'll just throw in maybe a couple more, the most interesting ones. Okay, what about, so if a site links to your site, and someone clicks that link to load up your site in a new tab, so the linking site used target equals _blank to open up that in a new tab. Can your site navigate the site that linked to it, like take that tab to another location?
Yes.
It has access to the window object via the referrer, unless they use the no referrer attribute.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, the it's called window.opener, and it gives you a pointer to the window of the other tab. And fun fact, actually, both the tabs are going to have the same event loop. You need the ability to access the other tab's window object synchronously. So the two sites on different origins are actually sharing an event loop.
Wow. And this is a huge security hole as well. Like, a lot of sites are vulnerable to this.
Yeah, this is why the redirect pattern is pretty common, to throw a middleman in between. On, like, if you click on Slack, it's like slackreader.com/ the actual URL, all that kind of stuff, just to like make sure this never happens.
Same with Outlook and a bunch of others.
It's just surprising that you can combine. I think it's surprising that you can combine all these things into like one event handler. So like the one click can do all the things.
I'll say kind of the meta benefit of all this is that because this page is so annoying and bad, you can take other security vulnerabilities. So I try to report as many vulnerabilities as I can. A lot of times they're not that serious, like an open redirect or something like that on some web page. It's like, oh, this allows me to put in arbitrary JavaScript, which allows me to do a window.location, which allows me to like link someone to a page that will redirect them somewhere else. And a lot of times we're like, oh, we don't consider that that harmful or whatever. But then you stick the annoying site into the redirect and they're like, oh, this is serious because someone went to our website and now they're at this terrible, terrible website. And so it actually has been helpful in people taking things like open redirects seriously. In my experience, in the 2 weeks I've been adding it into things. So good work.
Hey everyone, I'm Tim Smith, senior producer here at Changelog. You know how important it is to stay in the know, and our weekly newsletter helps you and thousands of other developers do exactly that. It's the developer news that matters, nothing more and nothing less. Visit changelog.com and subscribe today.
Cool. So let's talk about our favorite weird website now. So I want to get into like the nostalgic old web stuff. Back when the web used to be weird, back when the web used to be mostly full of like bizarre stuff. Maybe that stuff's still out there. I don't know, but it does certainly feel to me like the web is less weird than it used to be. Maybe that's just because maybe there's more weird stuff, but maybe like the other kind of corporate normal world internet is like more present, so we don't see the weird stuff as much. I don't know, but anyway, weird websites. Let's talk about them. I have a few that I remember that I liked a lot when I was a kid in high school, middle school. I remember Homestar Runner, Newgrounds, Albino Black Sheep. A lot of these Flash sites where people posted animations and games, and man, I wasted so much time on those. Specifically like Homestar Runner and Newgrounds. They were just so delightful. I remember having so much fun. And yeah, the web couldn't really do anything like that back then. So everyone used Flash for that. And it was great. It meant that we had sort of like pseudo video type animations. And there's some really like a ton of creativity just came out of that, I think. And you know, it even actually, I think people used to actually upload videos that were like encoded in some really bad format and play them back in Flash Player too. So like there was even videos, like early internet videos on some of these sites done via Flash.
Like Star Wars Kid and like all the originals.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
I think it's really interesting that there was all this creativity back then with technology like Flash that wasn't necessarily free or as open as like the open web is now. And you could do a lot of this stuff today, but maybe I'm just old, but I don't see as much of that now that it's free and open and much easier, much lower barrier to entry. You just don't see it as much, which is interesting.
Yeah, I guess you can just record a video on your phone and post it rather than have to learn Flash in order to encode it and then upload it with its own custom UI.
Yeah, but including things like the cartoons on like Homestar Runner or Albino Black Sheep. I remember watching a lot of those, but I don't see a lot of like HTML5 cartoons. I don't know if I've seen any.
Well, I mean, there's still plenty of cartoons on YouTube, right?
Yeah, that's true.
I think it's that classic form of like, you know, the existence of constraints is what forces people to be super creative. I think that's how that conversation right there can be summed up. And I really enjoyed that time of the web a lot. I was a Flash developer, and so I was so heavily inspired by David Firth, who made Salad Fingers and a bunch of other super dark Flash animation videos. And it made me want to be more creative with Flash because, you know, at the time I was a Flash developer making banner ads for the internet. And, you know, that was where capitalism really started ruining all of this creative stuff. So that was really good for me to have on the side to push me to still do silly things in Flash at the time.
Real talk, did you make the Punch the Monkey to win a prize banner ad?
No, that was not me. And I feel like I sleep at night well knowing that that wasn't me.
What was the worst ad that you ever made?
I made this thing and it was really awkward, and it was this Flash, it was like one of those Flash takeover websites, and it was like super interactive. There was all this video and stuff, and it was called The Womb. And so it was just a really awkward theme where there were these people covered in like slime lying on the floor, and there were these things floating around them that you had to click on, and it was just awkward.
That was an ad?
Yes, that was an ad.
Did everyone do Flash for us? Did you ever do any Flash development?
No, I never actually learned how to do Flash development. I didn't really do proper programming until like later, and then I just learned JavaScript. I did collect Flash animations, and I put them onto a website that was kind of like a knockoff of Newgrounds. It was all my favorite stuff, just
Pirated
rehosted it basically. Yeah, you can tell how, I started out as a, anyway.
Yeah, actually, that's maybe a side conversation, but we were talking a lot about Flash, and I built some Flash stuff. I think one of my first real web pages was my sister's soccer team's web page, which is fully Flash, and I would like go to the games and keep stats, and then it was like something to build a website for. But I pirated the entire Adobe suite and learned all that stuff, as a young kid. I'm sure downloaded like 1,000 viruses on my computer. But like, did y'all start with like legit copies of the Flash runtime or builder or whatever, or did everyone pirate it? Is that everyone's history?
Yes.
Once I got a full-time job, I did actually try, but in Australia, if you wanted even Flash, it was $3,000. It was such, and that's in Australian dollars too. It was such an amazing amount of money. And so I would say that there was a huge pirating scene in Australia, because if you wanted the master suite of Adobe apps, it was $10,000 at the time. And this was back in 2004. So it was just a horrendous amount of money.
Even back then, it seemed like Adobe had to have known that every kid, but like we were talking about free and open. I think, Nick, you brought that up. I think at the level of piracy that was going on with Adobe, it was essentially free and open. Is that fair to say? Like until Creative Cloud, that seemed like it was the case.
That's funny, because while I was saying that, I was thinking back to my time like playing with Flash and those tools, and I totally got like a pirated copy of that, and it didn't even register that that's how I got into it too.
Yeah, let it be a lesson to people, like let kids use your stuff for free, and it will become ubiquitous and eventually die. Suze, did you have more? You brought up a bunch of Flash stuff. Did you have any other ones that you want to bring up?
Yeah, I had one last website really quick, and it's called procatinator.com. So it's procatinator.com, and it essentially takes a GIF of a cat, it full screens it, and it finds a super appropriate matching song to go along with it. And every time you refresh the page or every time you click the button for another cat, you just get another random one. And I just love it so much. And if you want to know my favorite one, it is Cat 124, which is a bunch of cats playing ping pong, and the song is just the best match.
So to be clear, you memorized the like unique ID of that specific cat? Is that like 124
it's
is
only
the
digits.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, but still.
Yeah, so Cat 124, check it out. It's a great way of procrastinating for sure.
Nick, did you share yours yet?
Not yet. So I put two down. I guess one was I couldn't even remember it. YTMND, and I don't know if I would say it's it was my favorite site, but everyone just sent these videos or these sites to everyone in school all the time, and it was just these horrible sites that had repeating animated GIF backgrounds and then auto-playing music, and they were just completely random, and I never understood it, but they were fun. Some of them, I can't think of a specific one, unfortunately. I don't even know if the site's still up.
Yeah, there was like a Sean Connery one that I remember for sure. It stood for "You're the Man Now, Dog."
Wow, I never knew that.
It's from that I think it's a movie with Sean Connery. You're the man now, dog. That's the best I could do. You had another one, Nick?
Yeah, the $1 Million homepage.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
I remember when that was not completely filled out. So it was just a square of pixels, a million total pixels, and it was $1 per pixel, and you could pay whoever hosted the website $1 per pixel to own those pixels forever, and then you could put whatever you wanted up there. All of the ads that are on there, I guess, are from that era. I don't even know when it ended. Probably 2004-ish. it was pretty interesting seeing that, and just like a pretty cool idea. I thought like, wow, that's a really cool idea to cash out at $1 million. And then, you know,
I don't know if you were the same as me, but as soon as I saw that, I'm like, how can I do something similar?
exactly.
What way can I get people to pay me $1 for something tiny and useless but becomes popular? It reminds me a lot of Bitcoin and altcoins.
Oh man, actually, one of my friends has $1 million homepage type thing where you pay with his cryptocurrency. So that's actually not too far from what people are doing.
There you go. That's how you buy in.
I actually had an idea to do a 1 million voxel homepage instead of 1 million pixel. So you would buy voxel space in 3D in a like a Minecraft like world. So you'd go in and you could buy like basically effectively be buying a plot of land, and that would give you the right to build on that plot of land vertically and, you know, like up and down underground and up to the sky, and then you could put whatever like thing you want there and make it link somewhere.
That's a pretty cool idea. And with A-Frame, you could do it.
Yeah.
I think I'm up next. Yeah, everyone else is gone. I have a few that I like. None are that cool. If anyone asks me to this day what my favorite game is, I'm not lying when I say this. It's the helicopter game. It's just the best game. It's if you search for helicopter game, it's a Flash game. It still lives on some website. I don't think it's the original one it used to live on, but it's a game. It's one button. It's usually a space bar or the mouse click, and it's just like the helicopter goes up whenever you click down, and then it starts falling whenever you unclick, and then you just have to kind of navigate your way through. There was like a spaceman or jetpack man or Jetman on Facebook got really popular like 10 years after the helicopter game, which is the exact same game. It's just a guy with a jetpack instead of a helicopter. But I mean, I probably sunk hours and hours into this game. The interesting thing was, for a while, helicopter, if you search for it in Google, the first result, like untainted by my personal history or whatever, like the private window result for helicopter was helicopter game, and then the Wikipedia entry for helicopters, which I thought was pretty cool. I guess not too many people are Wikipediaing helicopters compared to playing games, but whatever. As far as like old internet videos, I think it used to be on one of the sites we already talked about, maybe eBaum's World, which we didn't mention by name, but History of the World, that was like, here's the Earth, see? Wrong. Pretty sweet Earth, you might say. I could probably recite the whole thing. That was a funny old video.
No.
Yeah.
That one was called End of the World. End of the World.
Sorry, not History. Yeah, there's History of Japan and End of the World. Yeah, that's my bad. History of Japan is also very good, for what it's worth, if not quite as famous, but somehow both informative and hilarious. And then probably my last one, as far as like actual weird internet, I don't know how this one has aged in the age of Alex not being in early high school or middle school anymore, so don't judge me if this is now faux pas, but I really used to like Maddox's best page in the universe, and people would like write him hate mail. I think the one I remember was he's like the top 10 worst songs of 2003, and it was just every song on U2's album from that year, which is funny. I don't know. He did a lot of things like that, and he was pretty funny to me as a young boy, which I'm sure now reflects poorly on me. But it's definitely a good part of the old weird internet. It's still up. I think I recently saw him on Twitter, like this week. I found out he still exists. So Maddox, the best page in the universe.
Cool. Well, on that note, I think we should say goodbye. So thanks for joining us, everybody. Next week, we're going to be doing an episode talking about Dojo, and Suze is hosting that. So that's going to be awesome.
Yeah, I'm really excited.
And we'll have Dylan Sheeman on, who is the project lead for Dojo. Started with Alex Russell back in the day, but Alex Russell has since moved on to service workers in Google and stuff. But Dylan and I have an interesting history that I'll explain next week if I'm on the show. But I like Dylan a lot. Everyone should listen to that episode.
I think that means you're going to be on the show, Alex, officially. Sorry to break it to you.
I'll up my pay by 100%.
All right, thank you for tuning in to JS Party this week. Tune in live on Thursdays at 1 p.m. U.S. Eastern at changelog.com/live. Join the community and Slack with us in real time during the shows. Head to changelog.com/community. And do us a favor, share this show with a friend, rate us on Apple Podcast, go into Overcast and favorite it. And thank you to Fastly, our bandwidth partner. Head to fastly.com to learn more. And we move fast and fix things around here at Changelog because of Rollbar. Check them out at rollbar.com. We're hosted on Linode Cloud servers. Head to linode.com/changelog. Check them out and support this show. Our music is produced by Breakmaster Cylinder. And you can find more shows just like this at changelog.com. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week.
Most awkward goodbye.
Why was I the only one?
Yeah, what the heck, guys? Come on, say goodbye.
I was like, bye.
Oh, because they're going to cut that out anyways, so.
Fine.
Hey, but it's called socializing.
That's not what I'm here for. I'm not anyone's friend.